Hi there, I'm Cathy Musick with Kansas Foundation for Agriculture in the Classroom. We're an organization that's been around for 32 years, and we have a great working partnership with the College of Agriculture and the College of Education at Kansas State University. We're located on the north side of campus, just north of the football stadium in Manhattan. Today we're going to share with you one of our favorite lesson plans that teachers use a lot throughout the state of Kansas. It has to do with one of our great natural resources, soil, and the name of the lesson plan is called Edible Soil Profile. And no, you aren't going to eat dirt. You're basically going to make a model of an edible soil profile out of food, and the kids will get to do an activity where they complete this. Let's take a look at our lesson plan, the Edible Soil Profile. I just want to familiarize you with our formatting for our lesson plans. We always start with the title of the lesson plan, the grade levels, the academic areas, and the topics that we're going to be using or reaching as through the lesson plan. We also have an overview, an objective area, a supplies area, recommended resources, and background information so that you will feel comfortable as you teach this to your students. There's also a full page of vocabulary words, and in this case, those connect to the soil formation and soil profile layers. And at the back of the lesson plan, there are extensions that could make this a whole unit if you would like, where you can use soil to teach project-based learning across the curriculums of science, math, language arts, and social studies. So what is soil? And why is it important to our lives? I also always like to ask the kids this question: why is soil important to our lives? First of all, it allows me to establish a baseline of what they already know about soil. And second of all, then it would allow me to know what I need to really focus on. In the case of this lesson plan, what we hope that you're teaching your students is that soil supports and nourishes plants, some of which provide food for us, and some of which provide food for animals who can convert that into food for us. The soil holds plant roots in place. It holds water for plants to take up, and it holds nutrients that plants need to grow. Soil also supports our buildings, roads, and infrastructures. I want to introduce you to a book called Soil, Get the Inside Scoop. It is written by the Soil Society of America, and it has lots of great information in it about soil. One of the pages in the book is a good one to start with your lesson plan. And when you're talking about why is soil important to our lives, it allows your students to think about the things that are in their backpack that might be originated in soil. And so, for instance, you might have things like your pencils that came from trees that grew in the soil, or your t-shirts, cotton t-shirts that were made from fibers of the cotton plant that grows in the soil, or even computer chips that were formed from silicon that comes from soil. So those would just be a few examples of why is soil important to us. And you can get this book for about $13. You go to www.soils.org and under Soil Society of America and do a search for the book Soil, Get the Inside Scoop, and you should be able to order that easily to have for your library in your classroom. Another question that I like to lead in with is, what is the difference between soil and dirt? And hopefully by the end of the lesson plan, your students will be using the word soil instead of dirt a lot more. Soil contains nutrients and water to support plant life, and dirt is things that are out of place in your car, office, or home. Like in my van, it might be pieces of food, pieces of paper, or hair that my dog has shed. Dirt is things that you would sweep up in your vacuum cleaner, where soil provides nutrients and water to support plant life. The academic grade level for this lesson plan is grades 3 through 5, although I know many of you are very flexible and could adapt this to lower or higher grade levels. We're looking at science and social studies, and the topics of the lesson plan are Earth's materials and systems and relationships between people and the environment. In the background of this lesson plan, you will discover that there are 5 factors listed that contribute to the formation of soil. Those include weathered bedrock, climate such as temperature, rainfall, and wind speed, topography such as the slope of the land, living organisms such as microorganisms that break down particles in the soil and help with organic matter, and then also living organisms in the form of humans who manipulate soil during farming or building roads or housing areas. The fifth factor is time, and time works along with the bedrock, the climate, topography, and living organisms to form soil, in some cases quicker than others. Let's talk about the soil profile. In your lesson plan, and on this next slide, we have a picture of the soil profile. And in this soil profile, we have three major layers. We have the parent layer, parent material layer, subsoil, and topsoil. And you can see the differences in the colors of these different layers. So if you were able to take a slice of soil, the perfect soil, you would see this type of a profile. And actually down here at the very bottom, you would have a layer of solid rock, and that is the bedrock. And the kids always get a kick out of it when I say I remember that from my Flintstones background. So again, we have the three layers, the parent layer, the subsoil layer, and the topsoil layer. And then, of course, up here on top, we have the growing plants and their root systems, and that is the organic matter. And if I were technical, I would probably have a picture of some worms crawling around in here to represent my microorganisms. Parent material is made up of broken up pieces of solid bedrock. Subsoil contains smaller pieces of rock from parent material and a small amount of organic matter. And topsoil, which is the uppermost productive soil layer, is the most impacted by weather, such as rainfall, temperature, and wind speed. In your lesson plan, it also tells you that the Kansas state soil is named Harney Silt Loam. This is a type of soil that's formed by the decomposing of the prairie grasses. In Kansas, it consists of over 4 million acres in 26 counties. Now let's talk about soil texture. Soil texture is determined by the percentage of three different kinds of mineral particles. As we look at, and this is in your lesson plan also, but as we look at this, if you were going to compare the three different particles by size, sand would be giant. So if you were going to use it as if you were looking under a giant microscope, it might be the size of a soccer ball or a volleyball. The second mineral that gives soil texture is silt, and it could be represented by the size of a tennis ball. And then clay is very, very tiny. You have to actually look at it through a microscope unless it's suspended in water, and it would be represented by the size of a BB. Sand, the largest particle, feels gritty and abrasive. Silt, if you're feeling of the soil, feels like baby powder. And clay is the smallest particle, and if you were feeling it in soil that had a large amount of clay, it would be very sticky. Now, when you look at these three particles, one thing that is on the testing or has been on the testing in the past for standardized testing is the fact that the mixture of sand, silt, and clay is called loam. And I usually ask the kids to help me say that word. So I would say, help me say the word loam, and they would say loam out loud. And then I would just say that this is a mixture of sand, silt, and clay. And it rhymes with the word Rome. Soils with a lot of sand don't hold water well for the plant roots, and soils with a lot of clay don't allow water to filter through well into the plant roots. So you do need that mixture of sand, silt, and clay for the perfect soil for plants to grow in. Now, taking all this information and putting it together, we're going to do a student activity called the edible soil profile. And what this does is it reinforces what the soil layers are by building a model soil profile from common food ingredients. So now we're going to do this student activity called the edible soil profile, and this will reinforce for the students the names of the soil layers by building a model soil profile from common food ingredients. in your lesson plan, it lists the ingredients that you will need and all of the utensils that you'll need. And one of the things that I would advise for you, especially if you have a larger classroom, is you may want to have some extra adult or older student help to help serve this to the kids as they build their soil profile. So the first thing that they're going to need is a clear cup, and I just get these clear party cups at your local discount store, and you're going to start building layers. The first layer is bedrock, and so that consists of 2 vanilla wafers. The second layer is parent material, which is the broken up layers of bedrock, and we are using mini marshmallows for the parent material. So now you have 2 layers. Your next layer is your subsoil, and again, remember our soil profile, it was lighter in color, and you're going to use a full 1/4 of a cup in there for your subsoil. And then you're going to use less than that for your topsoil, because that's usually a thinner layer than subsoil. So you're going to have your chocolate cereal as your topsoil. And then, of course, you want the good stuff, which is the organic matter, which lets the plants grow well. And for us, the good stuff is M&Ms. And so you're going to have a tablespoonful of M&Ms, 2 half tablespoons. And then for the last thing, you're going to use a pair of tongs and put in 2 gummy worms, which represent your decomposers. So the kids are going to build this. You've got the labels up here in front, and as they sit down to eat their snack, then you can quiz them about the different layers of the edible soil profile, and you can point to one and say, what does this layer represent? And of course, the vanilla wafers would be bedrock. The mini marshmallows are the parent material that's broken apart from the bedrock. Then you have your subsoil, your topsoil, which is richer in organic matter. That's why we use the dark chocolate. And then you have the good stuff, which is the M&Ms, or the organic matter, which is formed from the growing plant leaves and also the decomposing roots and any decomposing other matter. And then on top, you've got the gummy worms, which of course are the fun things to eat, and they represent the decomposers. Next, after the kids have eaten their snack, you're going to want them to do their follow-up activity sheets. And I would just encourage you to have them eat their full snack before the activity sheets to minimize spills. I know that doesn't happen at your school, but it does at mine. And so I usually just recommend that we go ahead and get the snack eaten before we do the activity sheets. There are 2 activity sheets in the lesson plan. One is about soil layers, and one is about the factors that build soil that we've already gone over in this lesson plan. So those will serve as assessments for what they've learned. And again, you're going to want to check out the extensions on the activities on page 11. The extensions would be plant science. There's a plant growth and development activity that they can do with growing plants in different soils and comparing and contrasting. There's a language arts extension where they can read another book called The Scoop on Soil, and they can do a writing activity as a part of that. And then social studies, exploring the Kansas state soil, which is Harney Silt Loam. And then looking at earth science, they can do a decomposition activity, a weathering activity, and they can research and model soil and water conservation practices used in Kansas to help prevent erosion. So that is the conclusion of this particular lesson plan. So I wanted also to introduce you to another great resource from Kansas Foundation for Ag in the Classroom, and it is an educator guide full of all kinds of background material about the biomes in Kansas. And there's a lot of information in there about soil if you want to brush up on your knowledge before you go through this lesson plan with your students. It's called Exploring Kansas Natural Resources, and you can order that for your classroom through our website at www.ksagclassroom.org. And you can get that just for postage. It's about $3.50 for postage for us to send that to you. And that will be a great resource to have for you to prepare for this lesson plan. Thank you for your attention to this lesson plan. We're happy to be able to provide this for you, and we would love to hear from you and see pictures of how this activity has worked in your classroom, and hope that it will send you well on your way to reaching all the educational standards that you need to in science and soil development. Thanks for tuning in for the Edible Soil Profile lesson plan. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we would love to hear from you with comments and pictures and any ideas that you have to improve the lesson plan. And we hope that it will help you reach all of the curriculum standards that you need to reach in earth science and soil formation.